As usual, this is a speed paint, so there might be a few flashes on the canvas where I use overlay layers and the fill bucket tool, so be careful if you're sensitive to flashing colors. Also, I'm getting over some COVID, so I might not sound perfectly okay, but I'm good. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. So this time around, I am not painting a Canon Warrior Cats character. I am painting Sunny Falls OC, Fawnskip. This is unrelated to my Twitter username, which is Fawn, my favorite animal, and Skip, which is based on Skips, my nickname in real life. It was never intended as a Warrior Cats username. In fact, I don't think I was actually, currently in the fandom when I made that account. It totally is by accident, but Fawnskip is my Twitter username. My Persona's warrior name is Mooncurl, if you were ever wondering. So anyways, either way, this means Sunny Falls OC Fawnskip is literally me. So I naturally needed to name myself that and make Sunny Falls OC my icon in her Discord server, so that everything I say is technically role-playing. So I quickly made an icon of Fawnskip to slap on my profile in her server. But recently, I rediscovered that this icon was Sunny's phone lock screen this entire time. This meant that, unquestionably, I had to make Sunny a better picture of Fawnskip for her phone lock screen, or I would die. First thing I did was try to take a bunch of pictures of Pepper to use as references. Unfortunately, Pepper is just not a very active boy, and my attempts at getting pictures of him moving or looking cool failed pretty miserably, so I just used one of him standing around from a weird angle instead. I'll admit I don't really use references enough, or follow directions well, or copy images well. In fact, I'm pretty vaguely bad at all of those things. But using references is important, even if you don't feel like you need them. My final drawing shares a pose with the reference and doesn't really match it one-to-one otherwise, but still, use references. It's not cheating, it's incredibly helpful, and absolutely everyone does it. I attempted to make this into an iPhone lock screen shape. Unfortunately, I was a little bit off there, and I used an older iPhone lock screen shape. Luckily, though, I did make it 4 times bigger than the dimensions of the iPhone lock screen. So it works fine as a lock screen because Sunny can just make it whatever size. But I failed. I failed because I'm an Android user. You might notice that this background basically stays the same throughout the entire thing and I don't do anything to it. Yeah. I liked it fine. I was like, oh yeah, no, this works. And I let it be for the rest of the entire thing. As usual, my painting style is just painting on top of an image over and over again until I like it. This time around, I used a bit more of a transparent brush than usual, which created a lot of inherent messiness with the way the art looked, but it also made it very textured, which I lean into later on. I tried to not make her look too happy or too evil despite her nature, so instead she has a neutral expression. That said, if my model is Pepper, evil is really the only way he ever looks. I mean, he's a sweetheart, and he's nervous, and he's timid, and he's clingy, but he always has this absolutely peeved look to him despite this. But he's not capable of any actual evil whatsoever. He's barely even capable of, killing something. Not to downplay the evil of killing things, I just mean, if presented with a toy or even a real mouse, Pepper doesn't really go for it. I mean, he'll catch it, but his main mode of murder is sitting in front of the electronic toy so that it runs into him and stops moving, as opposed to actually catching anything. Also, my cats are indoor cats, so they don't have very high kill counts. They only ever go outside on leashes. Aside from the 5-ish months they spent outside for the first bit of their lives before I caught them, they don't get to kill. I think 3 mice at most over the 7 years they've been alive, and all 3 of them got into my house as opposed to being found outside. Alphador, meanwhile, has never caught a mouse. Even though one did get in like a year ago now, he was still only like 5-6 months old, but you'd think he would be more interested. Him and Pepper were just watching it instead of doing anything, and Ocelot kept catching it and then gently letting it go, as if he was bored with it and wanted it to run around again. Meanwhile, I'm running around with a paper towel in the dustpan trying to grab the thing so that they don't, get a disease and somehow get it away from them. Everyone was super pathetic that day, me and also all the cats. And don't worry about the Patreon request channel. I'm still planning on using that for future speed paints. This is just a quick detour into drawing a friend's OC, and the next one of these will be taken from there. These are probably gonna be like a once-a-month situation going forward, as they'll help me build a buffer. I know my videos seem pretty simple, but they still take the better part of a week between them to make, so most of the time I'm finishing them the day before they go up. And sometimes a few days earlier, but usually only if I, worked through my self-imposed weekend. If you go back to about 2018-ish, 2019-ish, I actually did have about a month-long buffer that I had built up pretty much the entirety of the time I was working. And that was back when I was putting out 2 a week, so that was really helpful for like burnout or if I just couldn't think of anything for a week. But the quality and the length of the videos I was putting out at the time were also seriously low compared to the kinds of stuff I make now. So my goal for these is really just going to be, I want to build a buffer, I want to make some content that isn't as taxing and doesn't take as long to make, so that's my general goal with speed paints. Please watch them, even though most of what you're learning is my cat's kill counts. Right around here, I start experimenting with a bunch of brushes I downloaded to see what kind of silly business I can get up to. But I quickly go, wait, hold on, I'm not really at that level yet. But I can only hold off for so long before I start using a particular hatching brush on everything. You'll know it when you see it. It will be very, very obvious when it shows up. I love it when you can see someone flipping the canvas in a speed paint. It just goes. Yeah, that's the noise a flipping canvas makes in a speed paint. That's the I'm leaving that in there. I'm leaving that in there and I'm putting it on top of the flipped canvas. This is also about the point where I decide to start using that hatching brush, the one that has like all of the little lines in a row. And I use it a little bit here, and then a little bit later, I use it all over the place, uncontrollably, because I can't help myself. But I really like just stuff, just putting stuff all over the drawing. Around here I use an overlay layer on Fawnskip because I decided that I was drawing her not quite yellow enough. I wasn't really perfectly adhering to her palette, largely because I just didn't want to make the spots on her so light that you couldn't tell they were there, which was a problem in the older picture. Look, cats. I have so many like weird erasers and texture brushes and things like that I used this one, the one that I put all over the cat and then erase into a little bit. I used it and then I lost it and I couldn't find it again for the rest of the drawing. Like I did eventually, I went back in and I looked for it seriously, but I lost it. And so I've got this one point where I put a bunch of texture all over the cat, and I didn't remember which texture brush it was that I put all over the cat, and I had to just carefully not paint over it too much because I wanted to keep it the entire time. At this point in the process, I'm just going through and making everything look the way I want it to. Just, going over little bits, changing things, making them look better, making them look the way I want them to look. And that's what I like about painting, and I've probably already been over this in the last one. But what I like is how you just have a flat layer and you put things on top of it until it looks the way you want it to. You'll notice that I don't use very many layers while I'm painting. I'll use a couple. But largely, I just kind of go for it on the same layer forever. I'm kind of whatever the opposite of a perfectionist is. I want to finish what I'm working on, I want to make it look the way I want it to look, and if it's a little bit off, that's fine. It's just kind of, I like the process, I like doing it, but I only like doing it for as long as I like doing it. Does that make any sense? I can't work on something forever to make it look perfect. I can only make it look just as good as I need it to be. And I think this kind of philosophy has made me a better artist than I would be otherwise, because I'm constantly just moving on to a new thing instead of forever working on the same thing, which, allowed me to get better and allowed me to practice more. I think it also made me faster. I think that I make things at a faster rate because I do not care what they look like. I mean, that's not that's not entirely true, but I generally kind of trained myself to just draw faster, and I would like to be, even faster than I am so that I could, make more than one video in a week, but generally, my own impatience or, my lack of attention, I guess. I don't know. A desire to see the completed project more than a desire to actually make it. No, that's not true, because I enjoy making things. I'm just talking to myself now. I'm sorry. I guess what it comes down to is if I never got faster at making things, I would never make things, because I just can't focus for that long. I can't keep at something. I just need to make it and be done. For example, if I start a video and don't finish the entire step, like if I don't finish the entire script or the entire sketch, or I don't do the entire line work at once, very frequently, I'll just abandon it. Like, I'll just stop at that stage and never get it done. Because, thinking of going back to it is, it just doesn't, my brain just doesn't line up with that. So generally, if I'm working on art, I either finish it or I never finish it. Things like this, I did this in one sitting. I always do it in one sitting because I can only do it in one sitting. Here's that hatching line brush, by the way. I really, really like silly things like this. It just makes it look more complete than it would have been otherwise. I actually redo this foot again after I stop recording. I do a couple things after I stop recording. I wonder if you'll even be able to tell, though. Right here, I'm adding a couple overlay layers to make the darker patches look a little bit more like they're in the same palette as the face, because I used a lot of purple shading on the darker patches that weren't on the face, and it made them look like they were a different color a bit to me. So I just went through and added it. In retrospect, what caused that color change might have actually been the gradiented highlight that I put on the cat really, really early on, and not the purple shading. But either way, I fixed it. I fixed it in my own mind, at least. And here's the finished Fawnskip. I hope you enjoyed watching this. In the future, like I said before, the speed paints are going to be chosen based on suggestions in the Cats to Draw channel in my Patreon Discord, and I will be back with you with another speed paint probably in a couple weeks. If you're interested in learning more about who Fawnskip is, which obviously is not my topic to talk about, I will link to a Sunnyfall video about her, and you can also read about her in Sunny's fanfiction Paws of Stars.